worked so hard, overcame every obstacle in your path, and grown stronger because of it. You've realized that your strength comes from your determination, your patience, and the sheer will to achieve your dream. Along the way, you've met incredible people who've become your family. You've traveled far and wide with them, shared laughter, tears, and unforgettable memories. They are your crew, your home, your everything. And in the blink of an eye, it's all gone. Everything you've built, everyone you love, scattered, vanished, torn away from you. And the worst part, you can do nothing about it. Sabaody Arc, a bustling, vibrant island where dreams meet danger at every turn. It's a place full of pirates, nobles, and hidden secrets, where the stakes are higher than ever. But beneath the excitement, something dark and powerful stares, threatening to tear everything apart. In an instant, everything you know could change. New enemies, shocking revelations, and battles that push even the strongest to their limits. The question is, when everything goes wrong, what will you do next? I'll be reviewing Sabaody Arc and share my thoughts while reading One Piece for the first time, since the experience while reading is, in my opinion, completely different than watching the anime. So welcome to Sabaody Arc, written and illustrated by Eiichiro Oda. But before we continue, if you enjoyed this, make sure to like and subscribe for more. Thank you! Currently in the world of One Piece, after narrowly escaping the destruction of Enies Lobby, Cyberpol 9 agents, minus Pandam, traveled to St. Poplar to treat Rob Lucci's injuries. They earned money through street performances, and after Lucci's recovery, defeated the Candy Pirates, though Lucci's excessive actions frightened the locals. Soon after, they returned home to find a new generation of CP agents in training. The Marines, led by Captain Very Good, attempted to capture them, but CP9 swiftly repelled the attack. Spamdam, still recovering, vows revenge, while CP9 sails away, leaving a symbolic flower behind. Sabaody Arc, Chapter 490 to 513. Halfway there, an unbelievable encounter with the Mermaid. The Straw Hats sail onward, their log post guiding them towards Fishman Island. After navigating through strange weather and battling enormous sea kings, they finally arrive at what should be their destination, only to find a colossal red line blocking their way. This massive continent encircles the world, marking the halfway point of their journey through the Grand Line. It stands between Luffy's dream of becoming Pirate King and Brook's wish to reunite with Laboon. It's a stark reminder of the distance yet to be traveled, the challenges still to be faced. Meanwhile, at Marijoa, the world government is growing more concerned with the Straw Hats. Fleet Admiral Sengoku scolds Kuma for failing to eliminate Luffy, while Vice Admiral Garp downplays his grandson's escape, assuring Sengoku that Luffy won't spread news of Gekko Moria's defeat. These moments are short but critical. They remind us that Luffy is no longer just any other pirate. He's a growing problem, a name that the highest powers of the world are watching closely. Back at sea, Luffy, Robin, and Brook dive deep into the ocean aboard in the Shark Submerge, hoping to locate Fishman Island. But all they find is an angry Sea King. Luffy easily defeats the beast with his Gomu Gomu no rifle, only to be surprised when it spits out a mermaid named Camie and a talking starfish, Papagu. Camie, eager to contact her friend Hachi, is horrified when a stranger answers. Hachi has been kidnapped by the Macro Pirates and is about to be sold into slavery. Determined to help, Luffy agrees to rescue him, and guided by Camie, the crew heads towards Sabaody. But when they arrive, things take an unexpected turn. The Flying Fish Riders, led by the mysterious Diobara, ambush them. Diobara, a towering man with an iron mask, vows revenge on the one who ruined his life. Upon hearing the Straw Hats are nearby, the crew is unaware of the personal vendetta awaiting them, and as they approach the base, they prepare for the battle ahead. This part of the arc is a brilliant turning point in One Piece, where the tones shift from isolated adventures to something much grander. The red line isn't just a physical obstacle. It's symbolic of how far the Straw Hats have come and the challenges that still lie ahead. For Brook in particular, the red line represents the unreachable barrier between him and his long-lost friend, Laboon. It's an important moment for the crew as a whole, as their individual dreams and struggles come together at this point, reminding us that their journey is not just Luffy's, it's all of theirs. Then we have the introduction of Camie, who brings a light-hearted touch to this heavy moment. Spat out by a Sea King, landing in Sanji's arms, triggering an immediate nosebleed, which in my opinion is a bit too much, and trying to sell the Straw Hats takoyaki. It's pure One Piece absurdity. Yet, as her story unfolds, the tone quickly darkens when she learns that Hachi, a former member of Arlong Pirates, is about to be sold into slavery. This brings us back to one of the One Piece harshest truths. The world is cruel, and the people are treated as nothing more than property. Yubara's grudge against the Straw Hats, specifically Sanji, is one of Oda's clever setups. His feud, which began over a badly drawn wanted poster, quickly evolves into a significant plot point. What begins as a humorous conflict builds into a larger mystery. This comedic tension is woven into darker, more serious threats the crew is about to face. Oda is never afraid to juggle emotional extremes, and here it works. We're reminded of the vast, complicated world the Straw Hats are now part of. From the looming presence of the world government to the introduction of Duval and the hints of something far darker ahead. As the crew celebrates their small victories, Oda is already laying the foundation of a brutal reality check. The Straw Hats may be laughing now, the real challenges are just beginning. Revenge of the Flying Fish Riders, Duval's tragic story. At the Flying Fish Riders' hideout, Duval, the leader consumed by revenge, stands fuming with rage. His crew doesn't understand why he orders a retreat, but Duval's response instantly fears them. He has been waiting for this moment. Revenge on the man who ruined his life. Meanwhile, the Straw Hats sail towards the base. Completely unaware of the personal vendetta Duval holds against them. Camie, desperate to save her friend Hachi, grows more anxious as they approach. The tension rises as the crew nears the hideout. And when Hachi is revealed to be the former Arlong pirate, emotions run high. Nami especially is hurt by their past connection. But despite the tension, the crew decides to save Camie and Hachi, showing how far their bonds of friendship stretch. As chaos erupts, Luffy's fascination with the Flying Fish Riders turns into a full-fledged battle. Amidst the commotion, Duval reveals his true face, and the entire crew is stunned to discover that he looks exactly like Sanji's ugly wanted poster. This revelation sends Sanji into a fury, and the fight escalates from there, leading to a final showdown between Duval and Sanji, with a few hilarious twists along the way. Ultimately, Duval's life is transformed thanks to Sanji's brutal kick, and he rebrands him as the Rosy Life Riders, offering his support to the Straw Hats. This encounter, though strange and comedic, acts as a perfect setup for the larger themes in Sabaody Arc. The Straw Hats are no longer simply adventurers sailing through uncharted waters. They are directly involved in the wider political and social struggles of the world. The tension here is visible as the Straw Hats inch closer to the New World and face foes who are more powerful and more dangerous than anything they have encountered before. While the story occasionally dips into absurd humor, such as Duval's grudge over a poorly drawn wanted poster, it's clear that One Piece is shifting gears. The world is getting bigger, and the stakes are getting higher. Looking back at Thriller Bark, the previous arc, Sabaody marks a distinct turning point. Thriller Bark was a self-contained adventure with supernatural elements. But here, the Straw Hats are facing the consequences of their actions on a much grander scale. The return of Hachi, now a sympathetic character, is a perfect example of how One Piece blends the past storylines and the current stakes. The question of whether people can truly change, especially for someone like Nami, adds a layer of depth to the narrative and goes beyond the usual battle-heavy arcs. That said, the arc does have a few moments where Duval's exaggerated personality and over-the-top moments can feel like they drag on. But in the grand scheme of things, the pacing works, as the story is laying the groundwork for a major development and character growth. A hidden path below. The island of bubbles and nobles. As the Straw Hats set foot on Sabaody, the atmosphere shifts. The island is unlike anything they have encountered before. Giant trees releasing floating bubbles shimmer in the air like a dream, creating a surreal, almost magical landscape. But beneath the beauty of this place, a heavy warning hangs over them. Hachi, their fishman guide, explains that to reach Fishman Island, they will need a special coating for their ship. He promises to take them to the mechanic he trusts with his life. But there's a catch. They must avoid any confrontation with the world nobles at all costs. Even if someone is murdered right before their eyes, they are not to interfere. With that ominous warning, the crew splits up. Usopp, Franky, and Sanji stay behind on the Sunny. Usopp and Franky work on the repairs, while Sanji guards their treasure. Though everyone knows he's more interested in daydreaming about mermaids. Meanwhile, Luffy, Nami, Chopper, Robin, and Brook set off to explore, with Hachi, Camie, and Papage leading the way. Zoro, as usual, gets lost, his terrible sense of direction leading him astray after a floating bubble obscures the sign of their growth, changing the 41 to 1. As they wander through Sabaody, Hachi shows them the wonders of the island. Bubble-powered bikes, floating market stalls, and shopping malls nestled within massive trees. It feels like a place out of a dream, an oasis of wonder and novelty. But something seems off. Robin notices Camie's unease, sensing that the island's beauty hides a deeper, darker truth. Then reality crashes down. A pirate captain stumbles through the town, his body chained with a metal collar, begging desperately for someone to remove it. He screams that he no longer cares about the new world, that he just wants to go home to his wife and child. Hachi grips Luffy's arm, warning him not to interfere. The pirate is a slave. Before anyone can process what this means, the collar explodes, leaving the man's body broken. From above, a shadowed figure inspects the aftermath, like they are evaluating merchandise. Then the true horrors of Sabaody reveal themselves. Two world nobles, Roswart and his daughter Sharalia, arrive, and the entire town bows in submission. Their dog casually urinates on the dying man, and when he twitches, Sharalia kicks him aside, pulling out a pistol to shoot him dead. The crew stands in silent shock. Luffy's body tenses with rage, his fists clenched, ready to strike. But Hachi stops him. This is exactly what he warned them about. The world nobles hold absolute power, free to abuse and destroy lives as they see fit. Papage grimly explains. Harming a world noble means a marine admiral will be sent to eliminate the offender. The world nobles are not just privileged, they are the law. Their ancestors created the world government, and with that legacy, they hold power beyond challenge. The crew realizes that no matter how strong they are, this system is unbreakable. The pirate captain, despite his strength and survival through the Grand Line's dangers, could do nothing in the face of the world noble's absolute authority. Strength alone is not enough to change the world here. Sabaody is a place of contradictions. On the surface, it's a land of enchantment and wonder, but beneath its dreamlike exterior lies a cruel and unyielding truth. The Straw Hats have fought tyrants before. Arlong, Crocodile, Enere, but this is different. This isn't just a single corrupt ruler. This is the system itself, where cruelty is institutionalized and those in power can act however they want. The world nobles don't fight their own battles or even justify their actions. They are the law, simply because of who they are. What's most disturbing, however, is the realization, despite all of their strength, the Straw Hats can do nothing about it. For Luffy, who has always fought for freedom and justice, this is an unbearable reality. His anger boils over as he clenches his fists. But Hachi, in a quiet but firm voice, stops him. This isn't the time. Not yet. It's a harsh wake-up call. Up until now, the Straw Hats have felt invincible, defeating powerful enemies and rewriting the rules wherever they go. But here, in the heart of the Grand Line, they face a bitter truth. Some enemies cannot just be punched away. The oppressive system of the world nobles is a force too great to defeat with raw power alone. And the crew must come to terms with the reality that the world they are trying to change is far more complex and dangerous than they ever imagined. The 11 Supernovas. As the Straw Hats push forward through Sabaody, the weight of the island's dangers linger in the air. They have already witnessed the cruelty of the world nobles, and while their journey continues, they now find themselves facing bounty hunters foolish enough to cross their path. Luffy, Chopper, and Brook make quick work of them. But Hachi warns that they are entering the lawless zones. Grove 1 through 29, where chaos reigns unchecked, a stark contrast to the lively entertainment districts surrounding them. After navigating through the island, they finally arrive at Grove 13, where their supposed ticket to Fishman Island resides, a legendary coating engineer. Their search leads them into a bar run by a sharp-eyed woman named Shaki, a former pirate and an old friend of Hachi. She is not just any bar owner. In fact, she casually mentions she was once hunted by none other than Garp himself. Her knowledge of the Straw Hats is just as impressive. She's been keeping tabs on their exploits and knows exactly how much trouble they have stirred up. But the man they are searching for really isn't in the bar. Shaki explains that although he hasn't left Sabaody, he hasn't returned in half a year either. Instead, he spends his days wandering through bars and casinos, living life on his own terms. Luffy, ever the free spirit, suggests waiting, but the group decides to track him down. Before they leave, Shaki drops one more bombshell. Since their arrival, the Straw Hats have joined an elite group of pirates, the 11 Supernovas. Rookies with bounties exceeding 100 million Betty, gathered at the Red Line. And Luffy, he is the second highest among them. The revelation of the Supernovas shifts the tone of the arc. Sabaody suddenly feels less like a stopover and more like a setting of a new era in piracy. The next generation of pirates is gathered here, each one with their own ambitions and dangerous personalities. In Grove 24, we meet Kaponegang Betty, a ruthless mafia-style pirate who casually stabs one of his own men for interrupting him. Nearby, Big Eater Jurley Bonnie devours mountains of foods, living up to her reputation. Across the room, the Egyptian Basil Hawkins warns a pirate that fate is not on his side today. Tension simmers between two more supernovas, Usta's Captain Kidd and Roar of the Sea, Scratchman Apple, who are moments away from clashing. Meanwhile, in Grove 21, the Mad Monk Uruchi and the Masked Masker Soldier Killer are locked into their own battle, until a figure steps in to stop them. Red Flag X Drake, a former Marine Rear Admiral turned pirate. Watching from the shadows, Surgeon of Death Trafalgar Law, with a cold smile, asks Drake the simplest yet deadliest of questions. How many people have you killed? Back in the bar, Shaki reminds the Straw Hats that these pirates aren't just famous. They are the best of the best. But even among them, Kidd's bounty stands out. Not because of his strength in battle, but for his ruthless, indiscriminate slaughter of civilians. Luffy, hearing all of this, doesn't flinch. He simply shrugs it off, saying he will relax for now, unfazed by the brutal nature of the pirates around him. But there's one last thing Shaki assures them. Rayleigh isn't just some old mechanic. He is far stronger than any of the rookies on this island. A man with a legendary past that makes even the most feared pirates here seem like they're nothing. And that single statement lingers, hinting at just how deep the history of Sabaody really runs, setting the stage for a much larger conflict. This section of Sabaody brilliantly expands the world of One Piece. It's not just about the Straw Hats getting closer to Fishman Island. It's about introducing new characters, new threads, and deepening the intrigue of the Grand Line. The Supernovas represent a new generation of pirates, each one more dangerous and ambitious than the last. They aren't just rival pirates, they are legends in the making, and this island, with all its chaos and lawlessness, is the perfect backdrop for their clash. Though Shaki's words and the brief glimpses of these rookies, we see the stark contrast between Luffy's sense of freedom and the brutal ambition of those like Kid, whose bounty is based on bloodshed, not honor. It's a reminder of what Luffy stands for, a pirate who fights not for destruction, but for adventure and freedom. Camie's capture, a call for reinforcements. The search for Rayleigh quickly spirals into something far more dangerous. As Luffy and his crew set off, Shaki warns them to keep a low profile. But trouble is already brewing in the shadows. A notorious kidnapper, Peterman, has learned that Camie is a mermaid, a rare and valuable prize in Sabaody's human auction houses. While the Straw Hats remain blissfully unaware, enjoying a carefree day at Sabaody Park, and fulfilling Camie's simple dream of riding the Ferris wheel, Peterman's gang is closing in. Meanwhile, the island's darker side emerges as the grotesque nature of the world nobles is on full display. Saint Carlos, the most repulsive of them all, abuses a pirate he is using as a personal stallion before turning his attention to a group of doctors transporting an injured man. On a whim, he decides he wants one of the nurses as his wife. And when her fiancé objects, Carlos shoots him without hesitation. The helplessness in the scene is suffocating. Carlos knows no one will stop him. But then, Zoro walks by. Unaware of the unspoken rule about nobles, Zoro doesn't show fear. He simply asks Carlos if he needs directions. When Carlos raises his gun, Zoro moves to strike. But before he can act, Bonnie intervenes, playing it off as if Zoro has been already shot. She fools Carlos into walking away, but after he leaves, she explodes in frustration, warning Zoro that a single wrong move could bring the wrath of an Admiral down on all of them. The other supernovas, watching from the sidelines, are both impressed and entertained. They recognize the raw, unrestrained power Zoro has, a glimpse of the monsters the Straw Hats truly are. Back on the Thousand Sunny, the piece is shattered when Chopper urgently calls in. Camie has been kidnapped. Worse yet, they have no clue who took her or where she is being held. Sanji, realizing they need help from those familiar with the underworld crime, calls an unlikely ally, Duval and the Flying Fish Riders. As the Straw Hats and their new allies scatter across the island, Luffy, Hachi, and Papage take matters into their own hands, searching for Camie. Papage, devastated and blaming himself for letting his guard down, lashes out, declaring that it's not just the kidnappers they are facing, but the entire island. Meanwhile, in another part of Sabaody, Robin explains to Nami the horrifying history of fishmen and mermaids. 200 years ago, they were classified as fish, not people, and hunted as property. Even after an official settlement was signed, Sabaody continued to traffic in their kind in the shadows. This isn't just a random act of cruelty anymore. It's systematic oppression, a wound that has never been healed. Papage's desperate explanation to Luffy ends with an emotional plea. He and Hachi should not have brought Camie to the island. But Luffy shuts him down with a simple truth. They have done nothing wrong. He makes it clear Camie is his friend, and he will save her no matter what. It's a powerful moment that highlights who Luffy truly is. In a world of hierarchy and corruption, he refuses to care about race, class, or status. His loyalty is unwavering, and it's that very loyalty that makes him such a dangerous force. But time is running out. Camie has already been handed over to the human auction house at Grove 1, where the scum of the world gather to trade lives for Betty. Among the spectators are some dangerous figures. Usta's kid, Trafalgar Law, and their crews, waiting to see horrors unfold. Inside the auction house, Camie refuses to break, even as she is beaten by the head auctioneer, Disco. Then, as the tension reaches its peak, something shifts. Disco suddenly collapses, his smug demeanor replaced with confusion. A mysterious captive, who had been overlooked until now, smirks at the chaos unfolding. When asked who he is, he gives a simple answer. Just an old man who can't ignore a young girl. This old man is none other than Silver's Rayleigh, the former right hand of the Pirate King Goldie Roger himself. With that, the stage is set, and Sabaody's ticking time bomb is about to explode. Sabaody has been a place where dreams and nightmares exist side by side. On the surface, Luffy and his friends, unaware of the brewing storm, laugh as they make Camie's dream come true. But underneath, the island's true nature is tightening its grip. Slavery, cruelty, and the ever-present shadow of the world nobles. The moment with Saint Carlos is one of the most unsettling in One Piece. His absolute power, unchecked and encouraged, reveals the terrifying nature of the nobles. He's weak and pathetic, but his status allows him to do whatever he wants to do without fear of consequences. Then, Zoro steps in. This moment is almost too perfect for him. He doesn't understand the weight of what he's walking into. He's just being his usual no-nonsense self. He doesn't bow, he doesn't flinch, he just treats Carlos like any other random idiot in his way. For a brief moment, there's a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, Zoro will do what no one else dares. He nearly does, but Bonnie, understanding the bigger picture, pulls him back. This scene brilliantly contrasts the Straw Hats with the rest of the world. To Zoro, it's not about status. It's about whether someone deserves to be cut down or not. To Bonnie and the other supernovas watching, it's about survival. The rules of the world, no matter how twisted are the rules, they all have to obey. But the Straw Hats refuse to play that game. This is exactly what makes them so dangerous. From a fist to a revolution. Chaos at the auction house. The chaos at Sabaody reaches a boiling point when Luffy and his crew infiltrate the human auction house, determined to rescue their mermaid friend Camie. As the Straw Hats prepare to make their move, the ruthless world noble, Carlos, places an outrageous bid, ensuring no one else can buy her freedom. Just as hope seems lost, Luffy crashes into the auction house, igniting tension in an already unstable situation. The moment turns explosive when Carlos, embodying the worst of the noble's cruelty, shoots Hachi. The room holds its breath as Hachi pleads Luffy not to interfere, reminding him of their promise to not attack the world nobles. But Luffy, fists clenched, cannot stand by. With one powerful punch, he knocks Carlos across the room, shocking everyone present. The entire hall falls silent until panic erupts. This punch is more than just an act of rebellion. It's the buildup of everything the Straw Hats have seen on the island. The brutality, the injustice, and the cruelty of the world nobles. The celestial dragons have shown their true face. Arrogant, untouchable, and having completely no empathy. And when Carlos casually shoots Hachi, treating his life like nothing, the injustice becomes impossible to ignore. Oda makes us sit in that suffocating moment for just a second too long before Luffy erupts. pirates, unleashing his anger in a punch that shakes the very foundation of Sabaody. The entire auction house descends into chaos. The Marines mobilize, the Supernovas take notice, and in the midst of all, the legendary figure arrives. Silver's Rayleigh, the former right-hand man of the Pirate King. With a mere burst of his haki, he incapacitates the guard, stunning even amazing captains Kid and Law. As Luffy's attack on Carlos spreads, the island braces for the inevitable arrival of an Admiral. The Straw Hats, alongside Kid and Law, unleash their devil fruit powers against the Marines. The battle rages, showcases the strength of the new generation of pirates. And amidst the chaos, alliances are momentary, but ambitions remain clear. Each captain vows to conquer the Neo world in their quest for the One Piece. But just when escape seems within reach, the battlefield shifts once again. Kuma, one of the 7 warlords of the sea, appears, cutting off their path. The struggle is far from over, and the storm Luffy has unleashed is only just the beginning. This moment, the punch that reverberates across the world, marks a pivotal turning point in One Piece. The Straw Hats have battled corrupt marines, warlords, and even world government itself. But attacking a celestial dragon? That is outright war. What makes this moment so powerful is the weight behind it. Because this isn't just a punch, it's an explosion of pure rage. In that instant, Luffy doesn't just stand up for his friends. He declares war on the entire world, making an enemy of the forces that control it. It's about everything leading up to it. Sabaody is a world where slavery, discrimination, and unchecked power run rampant. The celestial dragons are the embodiment of everything wrong with this world, treating lives as if they are worth nothing, acting with impurity because of their untouchable status. When Carlos shoots Hachi without a second thought, it's a moment of injustice that cannot go unchallenged. And that's when Luffy snaps. And it's in Sabaody that the real weight of their struggle becomes clear. In past arcs, the Straw Hats declared war and won, but here they have declared war on the world itself. And the consequences are only the beginning. Sabaody isn't just about battles. It's about a new generation of pirates and the cost of challenging a corrupt system. The punch that Luffy delivers isn't just a spark in the story. It's the fire that ignites the revolution. And with that, the storm is unleashed, and the world will never be the same. Roger's legacy unveiled. Admiral Kizaru makes his move. The chaos on Sabaody escalates as the Heart Pirates continue their desperate battle against the Marines. As they fight their way out of the auction house, they run into the battered remnants of the Kid Pirates, already wounded from their earlier clash with Kuma. Despite their rivalry, Kid and Law know that they have no choice but to stand together as the Marines close in, preparing to face the looming warlord. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the island, the Straw Hats and their alliances deal with the unfinished business. Weiterman, the kidnapper who had abducted Camie, has been thoroughly beaten, and after returning her backpack, the Rosy Life Riders vow to help them escape. But the real revelations come when they regroup in Shaki's bar. There, they sit face to face with Silver's Rayleigh, who drops a bombshell. He was once the first mate of Goldie Roger. Rayleigh's story unravels the legend of the Pirate King in a way no one expected. Roger didn't fall to the Marines. He turned himself in. A dying man choosing to end his era on his own terms. His execution wasn't just the end of an era. It was the spark that ignited the age of piracy. The Straw Hats listen, captivated, as Rayleigh reveals how Roger and his crew conquered the Grand Line, meeting figures like Crocus along the way. Brook, in particular, is shaken to learn that Crocus had been searching for the Rumbar pirates, bringing an emotional weight to the story. But then, Rayleigh offers something truly priceless: the truth of the Void Century. Robin, tempted but resolute, declines, choosing to seek the answers herself. Meanwhile, Usopp nearly asks about the legendary One Piece, only for Luffy to shut him down with one of the most defining moments. He refuses to have the adventure spoiled, declaring that the Pirate King isn't the one who finds the treasure, but the one who is the freest person of the sea. His words strike a chord with Rayleigh, who smiles in quiet approval. As the crew prepares to lay low for 3 days while the ship is being coated, the island becomes even more dangerous. At Grove 27, a crew readies to set sail, only to witness a man standing atop a cannonball, soaring through the sky. The figure crashes into the harbor, revealing himself as Admiral Kizaru, a terrifying force of nature waiting for orders. Elsewhere, supernovas like Bonnie, Apu, and Hawkins find themselves at odds with the Marines, their clashes hinting at the storm about to unravel in Sabaody. Just when the Straw Hats try to stay under the radar, they find themselves face to face with a mysterious figure. Luffy, unfazed, asks the only question that matters. Who are you? Then, just as the story settles into a reflective pace, the arrival of Admiral Kizaru shifts everything into high gear. Kizaru's casual, terrifying entrance, standing atop a cannonball, floating through the air as if he has all the time in the world, reminds us that the real danger is just beginning. The admirals were a looming distant threat, but now one of them is here, and with him comes crushing weight of the world government's power. Sabaody is no longer just a dangerous island. It's a death trap. The Straw Hats, caught in the crossfire, are walking into a disaster they are not prepared for. The Marines strike back. Sabaody in upheaval. The battlefield at Sabaody is spiraling out of control, and the supernovas quickly realize just how powerless they truly are. Capone's bizarre devil fruit ability takes center stage as his miniature crew erupts from his body, overwhelming the Marines in a surreal scene that feels straight out of a war movie. But there's no time to admire his tactics, because all across Sabaody, the brutal reality of the situation sinks in. Hawkins, ever the calm strategist, reads his fate through the tarot cards, while Kizaru, the admiral with an almost lazy attitude, closes in. Hawking's chilling confidence may suggest that his probability of dying is 0. But does that really mean he can escape safely? Meanwhile, Urochi finds himself battered by the relentless Kuma, struggling against the overwhelming force of a warlord of the sea. His situation only worsens when Kizaru himself arrives, and the eerie sense of inevitability builds. This is not a fight anymore, it's an execution. Then, just when the situation seems beyond hope, X-Drake enters the fray, clashing with Kuma and revealing his ancient Zoan form. For a moment, it feels like the tides might turn, but Kizaru unleashes raw power, and Apu lands a surprising sneak attack that seems to damage Kizaru's arm, only for the Admiral to reappear as a blinding beam of light and lay waste to them all in a terrifying display of absolute power. The Straw Hats are facing their own nightmare. A second Kuma, different but equally deadly, stands in their path. Memories of Thriller Bark flood back as they realize this might not be the same man they barely survived against before. Their teamwork is pushed to its limits. Franky, Robin, Chopper, and Usopp all step up, throwing everything they have at the mechanical monster. A glimmer of hope emerges when they discover its weakness. It's still part human. Exploiting this, the crew mounts a desperate final offensive, culminating in Luffy's devastating rifle, smashing the relentless enemy into the ground. But even in victory, there's no relief. Zoro, still carrying the burden of Thriller Bark's brutal sacrifice, can barely stand. It becomes painfully clear Sabaody isn't the battlefield that they can win. The enemy is stronger, faster, and relentless. The storm has only just begun. Sabaody was never going to be an easy stop for the Straw Hats, but at this point, it becomes something far worse. A nightmare unfolding in real time. The weight of the world crashes down on Luffy and the other supernovas as they face the brutal reality of their situation. These rising stars of the worst generation have torn through the Grand Line with reckless confidence. They have battled sea monsters, taken on entire fleets, and made names for themselves as the next big threats in the pirate world. Here, against the overwhelming force of Kizaru, Kuma, and the Pacifistas, they are being crushed. And then there's Luffy. He has been unstoppable up until now. the cracks are starting to show. His desperation, his determination to protect his crew, it's all there. But will it be enough? Broken and scattered. The fall of the Straw Hat Pirates. The battle at Sabaody is over, but there's no victory. Only exhaustion, desperation, and the slow realization that the Straw Hats were never meant to win this fight. They have pushed through every obstacle, always finding a way to fight back. They have faced warlords, outsmarted marines, defied gods, and survived nightmares. But this time, there is no miracle. There's only defeat. The crew barely manages to take down one pacifista, and before they can catch their breath, a new enemy appears, Sentomare, bringing another identical killing machine. And with him, Admiral Kizaru, whose power has been already proven that none of them stand a chance. Luffy, seeing no other option, makes the call. They need to run, but there is no escape. The gap between them and their enemies is insurmountable. Zoro, still wrecked from Thriller Bark, is the first to fall. Kizaru, moving at the speed of light, is too fast, too powerful, and too untouchable. Usopp and Brook try to protect him, but their attacks mean nothing. Just as Kizaru is about to deliver the final blow, a legend steps in. Silver's Rayleigh, the Dark King, a relic of the old era. He clashes with Kizaru, offering his first glimmer of hope in a battle that has been nothing but hopeless. But even with this unexpected lifeline, the situation only gets worse. Then comes Kuma. But something is different. Kuma isn't attacking, he's making people disappear. One by one, the Straw Hats vanish into thin air. First Zoro, then Brook, then Usopp. Luffy watches, helpless, screaming as his crew is taken from him. Sanji, Franky, Nami, Chopper, Robin, all gone. And then, finally, Luffy himself. This is the day the Straw Hats suffered the greatest defeat. Not just a loss, but a complete and utter execution. Sabaody is the death of their innocence. The moment they realize that being a pirate isn't just about chasing dreams. It's about surviving in a world that is designed to break them. There is no last-minute power-up, no unexpected victory, just a crushing reminder of how small they really are in the grand scheme of the world. What makes this moment so devastating is that in previous arcs, the Straw Hats always found a way to overcome the odds, no matter how impossible the situation seemed. Thriller Bark gave us Zoro's sacrifice, a moment that showcased the raw strength of the crew's bond. And as Lobby gave us Luffy's desperation and his willingness to punch through every obstacle to save Robin. But Sabaody gives us helplessness. For the first time, Luffy isn't just beaten, he is broken. The Straw Hats, once so confident and full of hope, are torn apart. Not by the overwhelming force, but by the sheer, unrelenting power of their enemies. They are outclassed, outmatched, and completely out of options. Kizaru doesn't just overwhelm them, he plays with them, moving at light speed and making it clear that they are nothing more than insects to him. Even when Rayleigh steps in to hold Kizaru back, it's evident this is a fight they were never meant to win. Then Kuma's brutal actions seal their fate. One by one, the crew disappears, gone without a trace. Luffy, who has fought so hard to protect them, can do nothing. It's a gut punch. The crew's bond has been shattered, and Luffy, for the first time in the series, faces true helplessness. This is the moment where Sabaody changes everything in One Piece. The Straw Hats, and especially Luffy, are forced to confront the brutal reality of the Grand Line. For the first time, the Straw Hats realize they are not ready. Sabaody is cruel. It's a turning point that marks the end of their innocence. To get stronger, sometimes you have to break first. Sabaody is a turning point in One Piece and raises the stakes to a level that will make you question what's coming next, and how the Straw Hats will ever recover, because the true consequences of Sabaody are only beginning to unfold. So what's next for Luffy and his crew? Share your thoughts about Sabaody Arc in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I see you all in my next video. Bye bye!